Hi guys, and welcome back to At Home with Elisa. Today I am answering some questions. I had a viewer contact me and she asked if she could email me through some questions. She does live in my local area, so hi Brooke. She lives on the central coast of New South Wales. We live in a temperate climate and it's roughly equivalent to Zone 9B for the US planting guides, Zone 9B. So she lives local to me and she sent through some questions that she was hoping I could answer for her. Now, I am by no means a professional or master gardener at all. I have been gardening for almost my life on and off. I'm mainly focused on flowers and I'm still learning about veggies. I think I've only been doing veggie growing for about 3 years. But I think, sorry, I'm going to have to work around Eugene this morning. It's very early and he's still doing his job of crowing. So I have been growing veggies for just a few years, probably about 3 years. But I think gardening is one of those lifelong things where you're always going to be learning something. No matter how much of a gardener you are, you could garden your whole life and you're still going to learn new things. So some of the questions that she's asked are quite broad. So I thought I would get stuck into them and answer them for her. Okay, so Brooke's first question is, I saw on your YouTube video that you have all your seeds separated into seasons. How do you work out what seeds get to go for what seasons on the Central Coast? So I have seen a lot of YouTubers, I'm not sure if you follow other YouTubers, but I have seen a lot of other YouTubers in other countries. They need to separate by like frost dates, before and after certain frost dates. So where I live on the Central Coast of New South Wales, we have a temperate weather climate, and generally we don't get a lot of frosts. I'll explain why I'm telling you this in a second. But we don't get a lot of frost. I think I only remember in my adult life having one frost where I came out one morning and there was ice all over the windscreen of the car. So we don't get a lot of frosts where I live on the Central Coast. We do get a light frost, but nothing that's going to kill plants by any means. So as I said, through all my years of gardening, I haven't actually lost anything to frost. So with planting in Australia, so I'm just about to start autumn. You can see I've got autumn written here. So autumn for us is March, April and May. So we're just about to come into that period. So let me just grab a packet of seeds. So these again are just in Australia. It's a little bit different to America. So this one here is just a poached egg flour. Now it's exactly the same with all seed packets that we have. I'll turn the camera around so that you can see. Okay, so this is the back of a seed packet here in Australia. Now what I need to look at is, see here the blue part of Australia? I am in the blue part, which is just north of Sydney. It's classed as temperate. So this section here is where it shows you when you can plant. So I've got spring, summer and autumn. So I know that I can plant these seeds here in autumn. So I keep them in a bag, in my autumn sowing bag, and what I do is I will have them stored in autumn. Now at the end of autumn I won't actually be able to move them forward to winter, so what I will do is move them to the next time I will actually be able to use them. So I'll put them straight into my spring baggie. So I don't have all my baggies out all the time. I just have the autumn one, or the season that I'm dealing with. So I hope that makes sense. So I can sow these in autumn. I can't sow them in winter because in winter it's going to be too cold and they won't germinate, but I can sow them in spring. So at the end of autumn, as I'm just about to change my seasons over, I will move them, not put them in the winter one, I will put them in the spring, so that then I know that I can actually use these again in spring. So that's how I work with all of my seeds. So autumn, believe it or not, this is actually not a lot of seeds, but in autumn we can't sow as many things as what we can in, say, summer and spring, and in winter it's obviously vastly different as well. But yes, what I'm doing is going through all of my seeds every 3 months, checking them, making sure that they're still in date. Though they still say that there's really no expiry date when it comes to seeds, just germination rate goes down. but I'll just move them from season to season. So we don't have to worry about like last frost dates or anything like that here in Australia. You just need to work out exactly what zoning you're in, so what planting zone. So if you're just north of Sydney like I am on the Central Coast, then you're in a temperate climate. And if you do happen to be watching any other YouTubers that might be in the US, their planting zones are zone 9B. You would be able to grow most of the plants that they grow in a zone 9B. So I hope that answers that question clearly. If not, please let me know. Okay, so the next one is, you talk about deadheading a lot in your videos. How do you specifically do that? I.e., do you just cut the flowers at the stems once they look like they are dying, or is there more to it than that? I did recently do a deheading video on roses and how I care for my roses. I will link that below. That is one of the ones that I'm mainly deheading. So deadheading is something that you do for flowers generally. A lot of flowers need to be deadheaded because it actually stimulates the plant to grow more flowers. So when it comes to deadheading, it's usually just talking about flowers, not veggies. One of the flowers that does need regular deadheading is zinnias. Zinnias are absolutely gorgeous and they require to be deadheaded so that then more flowers will pop up. Same with dahlias. With roses, as I said, I do have a video that I'll link below, but with the roses you generally want to cut the head off, cut the flower off when you've got the first set of 5 leaves. So when you have a leaflet that has 5 leaves on it, that's when you want to cut it off, but I'll link that video below so that you can have a closer look. What are your main information sources for inspiration and information? Do you have any favorite websites or YouTubers that you follow for advice? So you're trying to read without glasses on. I read a lot of gardening books. I've always read a lot of gardening and landscaping books. It's what I like to do, usually during our busy growing season. So during spring and summer, I don't have as much time to do a lot of reading. In the winter, when things are a little bit slower, I like to do a lot of planning then for the forthcoming season. And I will also do a lot of reading as well. So I really enjoy different reading books. Please let me know if you'd be interested in any of the books that I have read, because yeah, I get a lot of information out of them. That's what my family always give me gift vouchers for books, because I just like to read a lot, and it's usually gardening related. And as for other YouTubers and things like that I like to follow for inspiration, definitely number 1 is Janie from Dig Plant Water Repeat on YouTube. If you haven't checked her out, please do so. She is a wealth of information, and she's actually doing her Master Gardener's course at the moment, which is really good because she's actually sharing what she's learning with us, which is fantastic. So again, her gardening in Zone 9B America actually works well for our temperate climate, New South Wales, Australia. So some other YouTubers that I also follow would be Laura from Garden Answer. Very different zone to us, but I still learn a lot from her. Jess from Roots and Refuge Farm, and I'd have to say Kevin and Jacques from Epic Gardening. So they would be the ones that I watch literally every video that they come out. And the next question is, what's been your biggest gardening fails, and did you work out later how to do it successfully, or can you still not master it to this day? I've had a few. So definitely passion fruit. I started here, I have a family that loves passion fruit. I started here with I think 3 or 4 passion fruit, and I've got 1 surviving. I gave them lots of water, and yeah, it's something I'm still learning. Like, I've fed it now and it seems to be responding really well, but it's definitely one of those things that, yeah, has not worked for me. Another one would probably be corn. Like, I can grow corn, I can get corn to form cobs, but I've just never got that perfect corn cob, you know, like the beautiful corn cob. I've definitely got like, they've been good looking, they've been good eating, but I definitely want that beautiful corn cob where it's just full to the brim. So that's something that I'm still aiming for. As I said, they're edible, and they're quite nice, but yeah, I want that dream corn cob. And one thing that I have definitely failed on moving here is I'm putting in a lot of raised beds, and the raised beds require obviously a lot of soil to fill them. Now we have reasonably decent soil here for the in-ground beds, but for the raised beds I've actually had to purchase bulk amounts of soil, and I have yet to find a landscape supplier that can provide good soil. I've had 2 huge shipments of soil since I've moved here, brought in so that then I can do my veggie gardening, and both of them have been really lacking on the nutrients department. So that's something that I'm constantly working on, improving soil. What's been your biggest gardening successes? This is probably a hard one. I think probably just establishing this garden here. When we moved here, this was just grass, and I think we're coming up to 2 years and a few months, and just establishing a garden here that I love. I think that's a huge success. It's not necessarily relating to any plant in particular, but it is something that, you know, I think is fantastic, especially with all the crazy weather that New South Wales has had last year. For those of you that don't know, we've had well over 2 meters of rain. So we had flooding, and we lost a few gardens quite a few times. So we've had to rebuild. So it slowed things down. I haven't finished the garden, but it's getting there. But I think, yeah, establishing a new garden where there was nothing, no infrastructure, no nothing, I think that's a huge success, and I just have to remember that. The other thing that I think I just had beginner's luck with was carrots. Oh my goodness, can I grow carrots? So yeah, lots and lots of carrots. I have a lot of carrots, and I can grow carrots easy. I know some people find them really, really tricky, but yeah, I just seem to fluke it with those. So I'll take a win where I can get one. So the next question is, what's your favourite things to grow, and do you prefer veggies or flowers? Oh, definitely flowers. Definitely, hands down, flowers. I think I like flowers the best because obviously they're beautiful, but I also have a lot more experience with those, so I don't have as many failures with those, and I just seem to be able to get it right. Whereas vegetables, I find they need a lot more nutrients. Sorry, I'm trying to work around the chicken crowing. So veggies need a lot more nutrients, so I do find that obviously I have to get my soil right, which, as I mentioned, I've had nothing but problems with soil, so it does take a few months to get your soil into a good position. I'm getting there, so yes, definitely flowers, though I do love a good garden snack. Currently my garden snack's cucumber melons. If you haven't tried them, they're like a little Mexican, they look like a little Mexican watermelon, but they're actually taste like a cucumber. So they're my favourite gardening snack at the moment. I also like peas and beans. So I keep telling my husband that I'm just still practicing veggie gardening. I keep telling him that so that then I can eat my snacks down here and I don't have to take it up and take it for dinner. So yeah, so he's like, well, when are you going to actually provide the, proper food? When is it going to make it up to the house? And yeah, I have a lot of veggie snacks down here. I recently set up my own veggie garden and flower beds using just the recommended soil mixtures from the nursery. Are there any things that you think I should have incorporated into the mix? Yes. Okay, so when you buy a garden mix from the nursery, it's always good. If you're looking at growing veggies in particular, you need to add a lot of poop. So the poop that I would add would be a pelletized poultry manure and also cow poo. So there's different types of poops that you want to use. One to stay clear of is horse manure. The reason being is that horses don't have enough, I think they only have one stomach, where a cow has 4 stomachs. So essentially eating a lot of grass and not able to break it down as much, so you can get a lot of weeds in horse manure. So I'd steer clear of horse manure and stick to pelletized chicken manure, or unless you have chickens yourself, and also cow manure. Another thing that I like to add to my gardens is rock dust. Rock dust is actually bought from, you can buy it from big box stores. I buy mine from a rural trader's store that's not far from me. Basically, rock dust has a lot of minerals, like a lot of earth minerals, which are really beneficial for plants. It does take some time to activate, but it's something that if you really want to get into gardening, you know your garden's going to be up and running for quite a long time and your beds are staying where they are, then get the rock dust in. It's just a once a year sort of top up over the garden, and it really does help to give plants some minerals that they need to grow. I've recently been doing an online vegetable gardening course, and rock dust is one of the things that Sarah from In My Patch, if you don't follow her on Instagram, she recommends rock dust all the time. So rock dust is one of the things that I've added to my garden, and I will continue to add. As well as that, you can also add some slow release fertilizers, but realistically, if you've got all your poops, like your cow poop and your poultry poop and your rock dust, you really shouldn't need those slow release fertilizers that are synthetic. So that's what I use. In a lot of the videos I watch, they keep talking about the importance of keeping your garden soil mix rich. I've had a veggie garden bed set up for about 2 years and I've not added anything to the soil. What's your advice on what to do with the soil and what regularity? So again, refer to the previous question. I definitely say to keep things rich, they're talking about rich in nutrients. So rich, I'm still working around the rooster. So they're talking about rich in nutrients. So your poop basically. So cow poop and chicken poop is what you want. That will give a lot of richness to your soil and allow your veggies to really grow. But definitely the most important thing about gardening is your soil health. So if you've got good soil health, lots of organic matter in compost, even worms, if you have a worm farm, I'm not sure, but worm farms are fantastic for adding life to the soil. Healthy soil means healthy plants. I would like to compost, but I have no idea how long to keep the compost before adding it to the veggie bed. I have no idea on how much compost to add and where to add to the bed. What's your tips for adding compost to gardens? So this is definitely an area that I need to improve on. So you have hot and cold composting. Hot composting means you're adding your browns, your greens, you're adding your water and you're aerating on a regular basis. I'm never that person, so I am a lazy gardener when it comes to composting, and I tend to forget about it. I think about what I have to do, and composting is just one of those things that I forget about. So I do have, obviously I use all my greens and I use all my browns. I don't often get it completely right, but I know that if it smells, I need to add more browns. I forget to aerate it. I'm definitely not the person to speak to when it comes to composting. It's something that I need to work on. I do know the main principles of composting is to add in 50% greens and 50% browns. That's a good starter way. You want it to be moist like a damp sponge but not wringing wet, and you need to aerate it regularly. So that would be where you would start. So your greens are any clippings and stuff that comes out of your lawnmower, anything that comes out of your garden. Your browns are your paper, egg cartons, newspaper, rip them up into small amounts. Everything needs to be ripped up into small amounts or cut up into small amounts because it's going to allow it to break down a lot quicker. And then yes, keeping it moist but not too moist, and then aerating regularly. You want to be aerating it like twice a week. But that's the basic principles of composting that I forget to do all the time. I see you have chickens. Do you use poo in your gardens, and how often and how much? So yes, I do have my beautiful chickens, or the noisy chicken that you can hear every morning. I do clean out their coop and I put it into my compost. However, as I said, I'm a lazy composter and I quite often forget to use it. So what I do is I put it into the compost and I will leave it there for a few months. I turn it, but chicken poo is a hot compost, so never, if you have a friend with chickens, do not put their compost or their manure straight onto your garden because it is too hot and it will burn your plants. You pelletized manure that you buy in bags is perfect because it's already aged. But hot compost straight out of a chicken coop, don't add it to your veggie gardens. It needs to sit for at least 6, maybe even 12 months. I usually leave mine for 12 months just to be sure. But it needs to sit, it needs to age so that it isn't as hot and it won't burn your plants. but otherwise chicken manure is just the perfect thing for gardening. Okay guys, we're nearly finished, just a few questions, and also I have some questions from some other viewers that I've written down as well. So what's in your garden now, and what are your gardening plans for this year? Okay, so at the moment in my garden, I have a lot of tomatoes. I have a lot of cucumbers. I'm using something called a crystal apple cucumber at the moment, and it is fantastic. Strawberries also, cucumelons, which I mentioned before, and lots of flowers. I still have some other crops that are just coming in, but I'm still waiting on them. As for my gardening plans for this year, I do actually have something in the works at the moment, but it's something big, and I'm going to need some helpers. I'm just in the process of organising that at the moment, so I will have an announcement on that soon, but it's a good way for me to be able to bring community into this garden here, so yeah, you'll have to stay tuned for that. Okay, what's your tips on succulents? I have heaps of them, but they die. I am either over or under watering them, or too much sun. Okay, so she just can't work it out. So succulents love the sun, so full sun. Full sun is 6 to 8 hours of sun a day is what they're after. With regards to growing them, they love a really poor soil. So we were talking about like rich soil and that sort of thing before, with compost and stuff. Just get a basic potting mix or a basic succulent or cacti mix and plant them in that. Don't use anything too rich, because the richer they don't like it. They don't like to hold on to moisture, and a lot of those potting mixes do have a lot of moisture, a lot of organic matter in them. So sand, put them in sand. I've grown mine in sand before and had really good success. And as far as water, if it hasn't rained that week, water them. Otherwise, don't even look at them. Just ignore them, pretend they're not there. Water once a week, and that is it. Okay, so this question is from Tam. I find if I don't have success, I lose interest. So what's the easiest things I can set and forget and come back to? Okay, so for that sort of thing, I would recommend, firstly, just in your garden in general, have a watering system set up. If it's something that you won't remember all the time, set up a watering system, whether it be just a soaker hose or a drip hose on a timer. If you can set and forget that, then you won't have to do the regular maintenance. So get that down first. In Australia, we're too hot here. We need to have a lot of water for our plants. So set the timer, have watering done every day for you. So with regards to actual plants, I would make sure that you've got a rich soil, which I talked about earlier. Make sure that you've got some compost in your soil. You want to have a bit of organic matter in there. And then if you wanted to plant something like peas or beans, depending on your season, peas, beans, silver beet, leafy greens, things like that, that require very little maintenance. Once you've got your organic matter, you've got your water set up, as long as you've got sunshine, they're going to grow. So they would be the things that I would recommend for someone who gets disheartened easily and loses interest. Get that watering set up so you don't have to remember to do it. And then, yes, I think they would be ones where I would start with. This question is from Lisa. I tried to grow mini cucumbers at the start of summer, autumn, but all I got was a weak vine that died very early on. Any tips on how to grow them successfully? Brooke also planted normal cucumbers just recently in December, and the same thing happened to her. Okay, so I would say that your soil isn't right there. I would say that you don't have enough nutrients to support the plant if they're going yellow and weak. Definitely add in manures. Those manures I was talking about earlier, your cow poo and your pelletized chicken poo, add those into your soil before planting your cucumbers, and I think you'll have a lot more success. Also, cucumbers can actually have some problems with regards to watering. So when you are watering them, water the soil. With most plants, you want to water the soil, not water the plant itself, because you can encourage disease. So that would be one thing I would recommend, is watering the soil just so that you can stop things like powdery mildew setting in as well, which can weaken the plant. Also on a hot day, which, you know, summer here in Australia, we get hot. On a hot day of over 30, I'd water in the morning and I'd water in the night. Big B, sorry. Water in the morning and water in the night. Otherwise, I'd water every second day. I think that will help you. Okay guys, and last question. Will you start any videos soon on how to preserve your excess crops? I would love some tips on how to not waste anything. Oh, that's such a good idea. So I have thought about doing these sorts of videos with regards to food prep and that sort of thing. Personally, I'm not one that likes a lot of preserved foods like pickles and things like that. I love jams. I love using produce that I've cooked straight fresh, and I also like to freeze a lot of things that I eat. So I do love like tomato sauces and pasta sauces and that sort of thing. That is something that I will look at making in the future. At the moment, I've been growing enough to basically keep our family in stock with fresh produce that we use fresh, and I've also been giving a lot away to other family members as well. So I probably need to up my game with regards to preserve, because I know how many tomatoes and I'm going to need for tomato sauce, and also for things like pasta sauces. When my garden extension is done, which I'm planning to do next year, I'll have a lot more room to grow, and I think that then I will probably move into looking more at preserving sorts of food. But again, it wouldn't be things like pickles or anything like that, because that just doesn't appeal to our taste buds. But things like beetroot relish, oh yeah, love beetroot relish. Jam, I would love to do jam. One of my goals this year is to do sourdough, which is not really garden related, but it's just one of my goals. I'm thinking in winter, when things slow down a little bit, try and do sourdough. But yes, I definitely need to make sure that I do use a lot more of the veggies that we get from the garden and use them on a regular basis, and store them correctly. At the moment, I'm just storing garlic. I haven't done onions. I haven't stored onions. We generally tend to use those straight away. But yes, I need to up my production in order to be able to do big batches of cooking. So it's something that I'm working on. So that is all of the questions. Thank you very much if you stuck through to the end. Thank you, Brooke, for emailing those in. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. Either comment below or you can email me as well. My email address is in the description. So yes, I don't profess to be a master gardener, just somebody who loves gardening and reads a lot and watches a lot of YouTube videos. Okay, so I need to get watering the garden before everybody wakes up. So thank you so much for joining me in the garden this morning. I hope you have enjoyed my first ever question and answer. I feel so honoured to be asked questions. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye.